Well, thank you so much for inviting me today, and I'm pleased to meet all of you. And thank you for the opportunity to present the Palestinian point of view. I would like to start by saying that I don't think what we have here is really what can be called a conflict. And it's not even a struggle between two equal sides. In reality, what we are facing here is nothing but a settler colonial project created by the Zionist movement in the beginning of the 20th century or the end of the 19th century, with one very clear goal, which is to replace Palestinian population and ethnically cleanse it. And what is happening today in Palestine, and especially in Gaza, is a continuation of a process that started in 1948 when Israel committed the worst kind of ethnic cleansing, forcing 70% of the Palestinian population to leave their homeland and to leave their towns and villages, in a process where Israel destroyed no less than 520 Palestinian villages and communities, uprooted the people who were living there, and forced them out, committing no less than 52 massacres. That ethnic cleansing was followed by 1967 war, which led to the occupation of the remaining of Palestinian land, that is West Bank and Gaza Strip, since 1967, creating what we can call the longest occupation in modern history. And then this was complicated further by the creation of a system of apartheid, where two people living in the same area are subjected to two different types of laws, one for Jewish people and one discriminatory against Palestinian people. Although today the number of Palestinians on the land of historic Palestine, regardless of the fact that there are 7 million refugees displaced, is equal, if not a little bit more, than the Jewish population. During the last 200 days, Israel committed in Gaza something that is totally unprecedented. It combined three war crimes at the same time. The crime of ethnic cleansing, the crime of collective punishment, and the crime of genocide. During the last 200 days, the Israeli army killed in Gaza no less than 41,000 people. If we include 7,000 who are still missing under the rubble, that includes 15,000 children, no less than 10,000 women. And in addition to that, they injured 77,000 people, many of whom are going to die because of the total destruction of the most important medical facilities in Gaza. In reality, today, after 200 days of this war, 5% of the population of Gaza have been either killed or injured. This is a huge number. If we compare it proportionally to the United States, if this had happened in the United States of America, you would be talking about no less than 12 million people killed or injured in 7 months. And not only that, the act of collective punishment has left very huge amount of the Palestinian population at the edge of starvation. Today, 700,000 people in the north of Gaza are deprived of everything and under terrible siege. And they are suffering from starvation. We've already lost 19 children because of starvation. But in addition to that, more than 80% of the population were evicted from their homes by force, by bombardment. In this process, Israel bombarded Gaza with no less than 70,000 tons of explosives, in an area that is not more than 364 square kilometers or 140 square miles. 70,000 tons of explosives, that's double the amount of explosives that were used in the 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during the Second World War. It is no less than 30 kilograms of explosives for each man, woman, and child. But not only that, the destruction included the whole infrastructure of Gaza. All universities were completely destroyed. Most schools, no less than 158 health institutions and clinics, 33 hospitals out of 36 were completely destroyed. 126 ambulances were bombarded, killing the people in it. And Israel prevented, up till now, any foreign journalist from entering Gaza, except one from CNN who was there only for 3 hours. And the local journalists are facing horrible times because up till now, 136 Palestinian journalists were killed by the Israeli bombardment. 428 of my colleagues, doctors, nurses, and health professionals were also killed, and 300 others were injured. And I never thought as a medical doctor that in my life I will hear my colleagues telling me that they had to conduct amputation on somebody without anesthetics because Israel is not allowing anesthetics to enter Gaza. A woman who needed cesarean section even had an operation to save her life and the life of her baby without anesthesia. The devastation is incredible. Because of the destruction of the infrastructure, because of the lack of clean water, because of the lack of food, people are killed not only with bombardment, but also with diseases. At this very moment, 1 million people out of 2.3 million are sick and having diseases, from respiratory infections to skin diseases, but more important, suffering from terrible epidemics like infectious hepatitis, a situation that could exacerbate even more because of lack of vaccination for children for the last 200 days. 1,000 children have had their legs or hands amputated. The thing that shocked me more than anything was a video of a child who's 5 years old who lost both of his hands because of Israeli bombardment, asking his father, "Will my hands grow again when I grow up?" It's a horrible situation. And I always say that there is no difference between Anna Frank, who was a Jewish girl persecuted and killed by the Nazis during the Second World War. There is no difference between Anna Frank and another child, Hind Rajab, who is a Palestinian 6-year-old girl who found herself in a car bombarded by Israeli tanks with 6 people of her family killed, and she was screaming for hours, demanding help. And when the ambulance was sent to save her, the ambulance itself was bombarded, and she was also bombarded to death. There is no difference between these two girls, because in reality, those who suffered from the Holocaust, the Jewish people in the Second World War, and those who are suffering today, the Palestinians, from this new Holocaust, are the same people who suffered from oppression and lack of justice. And I believe that those who were silent about the Holocaust against Jewish people in the Second World War, the same mindset that allowed that Holocaust, the same mindset that allowed anti-Semitism against Jewish people in Europe and in the pogroms of Russia, is the same mindset that is silent today and allowing this terrible Holocaust of the Palestinian people. And nothing is more insulting to the memory of those who suffered in the Holocaust than the behavior of the Israeli army today and the Israeli government headed by Netanyahu and the Israeli establishment which is committing this terrible genocide against the Palestinian people. The problem today is not only about the suffering of the Palestinian people. The problem is bigger than that. It's about the big question, which is, do we live in this world according to international law, or there is no international law anymore? Israel has violated every aspect of international law. It was allowed to be impunitive to international law for a very long time. And the fact that we have such a level of double standard, when you compare the Western positions in Ukraine with that in Palestine, is very clear. In the case of Ukraine, because they say that there was a Russian occupation, Russia was subjected to 11,000 sanctions in 2 months. And billions of dollars went to support Ukraine, as well as military equipment and so on. In the case of Palestine, yes, the money came, but not to the occupied and oppressed people, but to the occupier, to Israel. And just today, the American president signed a new resolution of supplying Israel with $26 billion to support its war on the Palestinian people. Instead of punishing the occupier, the occupied is punished. That raises the question about the level of double standard in this world. And it also raises the other question, which is, are there international laws that provide for the respect of human rights, or they are not existent anymore? Do we live according to international law, or the world is back to the 19th century, as if the First and Second World War did not happen, and all these rules and regulations and the creation of the United Nations has no value? Israel started by a process of dehumanizing Palestinians, using what happened, of course, on the 7th of October. And of course, I am against killing any child, but the killing of 30 children does not justify killing 15,000 children. No child should ever be killed. And the question here, how could the United States of America in particular, how can the Western governments, many of them, I don't put everybody in the same basket, allow the continuation of this terrible genocide and allow the preparation today of yet another huge massacre if Israel continues this war and attack the area of Rafah, where more than 1.2 million people live in a very small area that is not more than 40 square kilometers. If they start such an attack there, the massacre will be beyond description. The problem that we face today is not only the attacks that are happening in Gaza, but also on the West Bank, where also more than 487 people have been killed by not only the Israeli army, but the Israeli illegal settlers who have settled in the occupied territories in violation of international law, who are considered illegal even by United States. Yet their number has grown to be 750,000, and they have organized themselves in criminal gangs equipped with military equipment by the Israeli army and protected by the Israeli army, and they are conducting terrorist attacks against Palestinian communities around the clock, burning houses, burning cars, shooting people, and injuring them. This situation cannot continue. And that's why we see what I can call an international uprising, especially among the younger generation, in protest of this terrible genocide and injustice. What we see today in the United States is very impressive. There are demonstrations taking place now in 28 American universities. The American administration is bringing in the American police and even the National Guard to attack those who are demonstrating in support of Palestine. And something that I am very proud of and very appreciative of is the fact that many of these students who are demonstrating are not only Palestinians or Americans. Many of them are Jewish American young people who do not agree with the policy of Israel and who do not agree with Zionism and do not agree with this system of apartheid and racial discrimination against the Palestinian people. The future, of course, depends on all parties, but the future, we cannot talk about the future unless the ongoing crime is stopped. And that means eliminating and stopping this terrible war crime that is still continuing on the land of Gaza. Stopping the war and having immediate ceasefire, allowing the exchange of prisoners so that all Israeli prisoners, the 130 of them, could come back home safe, but also all Palestinian prisoners, who are now 9,000 in the West Bank and many, many thousands in Gaza Strip, would also be allowed to come back home safe. It is simply a hypocrisy to speak only about 130 prisoners, Israeli prisoners, and not to say a word about the Palestinian political prisoners whose numbers are in the thousands, including one cousin of mine who has been in Israeli jail for 43 years continuously. That should not be allowed to continue. The road to peace is very simple. This is not complicated as they say. It's very clear. The road to peace goes through ending the illegal occupation, through ending the system of oppression and racial discrimination and apartheid, through allowing the Palestinian people to also be free and independent and capable of practicing self-determination. That means nullifying the Israeli law, which says, and that was passed by the Israeli parliament, which says that the right of self-determination on the land of historic Palestine, which they call Eretz Israel, is exclusive for Jewish people. Today we are equal in numbers. Maybe Palestinians are a little bit more. What's the solution? It can only be either two-state solution, where Israel would have to end its occupation, allow Palestinian refugees to come back home safe, remove their Israeli illegal settlements from the occupied Palestinian territories, and allowing the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state. Or if they don't want two-state solution, they should allow one democratic state. And I believe this would be the better solution, since they have destroyed systematically the possibility of a two-state solution. One democratic state where both people can live together in equality, with equal rights and equal duties. Unfortunately, the Israeli establishment and most of the Israeli political parties, if not all of them, do not believe in either solutions. So if they don't accept two-state solution and don't accept one democratic state solution, what is the solution? For them, it is ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people, which is exactly what they are trying to do today in Gaza through genocide, through continuous attacks, and trying to push people out of Palestine. This Israeli government is led by fascist figures like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. Both of them are illegal settlers. Smotrich now is practically the governor of the West Bank, occupied West Bank. And this man does not shy away from calling himself a fascist homophobe and declared on the first days of this Israeli government that their goal is to fill the West Bank with settlements and settlers so that Palestinians would lose any hope of a state of their own, and then would have to accept one of three solutions: either to leave, which is ethnic cleansing, or accept a life of subjugation to the Israeli side, which is apartheid, or die, which is exactly what this genocide means in Gaza. I'm not telling you all of that because I want to aggravate you against anybody. I'm telling you all this information because the world must understand and accept that Palestinians, like everybody else, have the right to live in peace, have the right to have their self-determination, have the right to be free. And I will conclude by a phrase which was said by one of the famous Palestinian poets. His name was Tawfiq Zayad. He said, "We, the Palestinian people, are not better than any other people in this world, but no other people in this world are better than us. What we demand, what we need, what we want is equality, respect, and the right to freedom and dignity." Thank you.